where you want it.
Bay 12, please.
Hello there, comic book fans, and welcome back to another Bay 12 video review. And today we are talking about Robert Kirkman's newest comic to hit shelves. It just hit shelves this week, and it kind of came a little bit out of nowhere. At least for me, it did. I didn't hear about this comic until about a week or two ago. Now, I think that's also might have been when it was announced. It was pretty quick from announcement to comic book shelves. And that's because there was a lot of hush-hush going on with this. So recently, I think I talked about it in another review. Hopefully it's a review that's already been posted at this point. It's hard to keep track. We do a lot of recording here on Bay 12. And I had mentioned that the Transformers comic book brand has just been kind of in this weird limbo state. Well, we finally have some answers. So if you're a Transformers and G.I.Joe fan, we are finally getting continued Transformers and G.I.Joe comics. Now, I worry that phrasing might have been a little bit confusing. This is not a continuation of a previous existing Transformers comic book universe or show universe or anything of that nature. Now, there's nothing saying that, like studios and publishers past, that Image won't be doing, tie-in movie comics or tie-in show comics, much like IDW and some of the predecessors there throughout. But we are getting what's called the Energon universe. Now, not to be confused with the Energon TV series from the Unicron trilogy, more accurately, duology, but we finally got some answers today. So, presenting Robert Kirkman's Void Rivals, an all-new science fiction story. Now, this specifically is not a Transformers story. I will give you one minor spoiler, and a Transformers character does appear in this first issue. I don't expect there to be a lot of Transformers interaction, at least not at the start of this book, but finally something, after 6 months of nothing for Transformers fans and nothing for G.I. Joe fans. I know to some this might sound like a silly, oh, that's really not that long of a wait, but going 6 months dry of content from your favorite property is like an eternity. Okay, maybe I'm exaggerating a bit. Maybe I just missed it that much. But the point is, it's finally back. Now, there are some really cool details inside. I'm not going to show you anything from inside the comic because this did, as I'm recording this, just hit shelves today. So make sure, guys, that if you're watching this video, that you head over to your local comic book shop and pick up a copy of Void Rivals. There's lots of cool different covers. There's at least 5 or 6 different covers from what I saw. I really liked this one a lot. I also picked up one of the blank sketch covers, and maybe since it's like the start of this new universe, maybe I'll actually fill it out with something or commission somebody to fill it out with something, maybe with the special character that appears in this book. We'll see. But that's more for my personal efficacy. And maybe I'll show it off in the future, but more on that later. It just depends on what I decide on there. But I did go ahead and read it. It was a cool little story. Basically, the premise is we have 2 different warring aliens. I know that kind of sounds familiar to you, which, what a way to initiate a new shared universe with Transformers and G.I. Joe with another, set of warring factions, right? Now, these, from what I can gather, have nothing to do with Transformers or G.I. Joe. They just happen to be in the same comic book universe going forward. And yeah, issue 1 was pretty cool. I'm definitely looking forward to issue 2. Issue 2 comes out next month, so be on the lookout if you pick up this and you liked it. Be on the lookout for next month's issue, which will be issue 2 of Void Rivals. And I like that title. That's a cool title too, because these are, aliens out in space. There's a lot of void in, and yeah, they're rivaling factions. So yeah, not a bad title. A very nice, easy, self-explanatory title. And the artwork looks cool, as you would expect from a Robert Kirkman story. And that's really all I have to say about that without actually giving details to spoil the story. Go check it out for yourself. I mean, it's a $4 comic book if you just get one of the regular covers. So, you know, for $4, it's worth checking out a new story, something totally new. And Robert Kirkman doesn't really miss. I mean, we're talking about the man responsible for both The Walking Dead and Invincible, which were both very awesome and very popular comics, which turned into very awesome and popular TV series in their own right, some of which with multiple spin-offs. You know what I'm talking about. So it's worth checking out. I think Robert Kirkman's name should carry enough weight to warrant you spending at least $4 to pick up an issue of this comic right here and seeing what you think. If you're a Transformers fan and you've been waiting like I have, the wait is finally over, and will for sure be over starting in October. And if you're a G.I. Joe fan, the wait is going to be over a little bit later for G.I. Joe fans than it is for Transformers fans. We are getting Transformers, it seems, first. Maybe we'll see like a G.I. Joe tie-in with this sometime before the official G.I. Joe comics start later this winter, but more on that later. Okay, let's get into the book real quick. So there's the cover once again. I also like the cover on the back. The back cover looks pretty cool too. Some of the artwork looks really cool. I'll just show you the first page. I do really like that artwork. That's really cool. Just somewhere in space. We don't know where. Doesn't go into that. They're not to you know, reference another sci-fi thing, but they are in a sense lost in space. No, not actually lost in space. They're just, you know, lost and they're in space. Okay? All right. We're going to be pretty much going all the way straight to the end here. Okay. So, here's what's important for Transformers and Joe fans. Right here, these couple of pages on the very, very back of the book. Okay? Got a really cool looking artwork of a G1-esque looking Optimus Prime. And the Energon universe has arrived. Robert Kirkman's all-new Transformers and G.I. Joe shared universe continues every month in Void Rivals and these upcoming releases. Pre-order with your local comic shop now. And then July 19th for issue 2 of Void Rivals, so that'll be cool. And for Transformers specifically, Transformers #1 by Daniel Warren Johnson will be released October 2023. Duke, so this is for the Joe fans specifically, Duke #1 by Joshua Williamson and Tom Riley, December of 2023. Cobra Commander #1 by Joshua Williamson and Andrea Milana, hopefully I pronounced her name correctly, January of 2024. So, Shared Universe has started with Void Rivals. If you are a Transformers fan, a G.I. Joe fan, a fan of shared universes, and you're looking for the on-ramp to get in on the ground running, because I know with some Transformers comics it's a little difficult because a lot of the publishers who handled Transformers and G.I. Joe usually held on to them for a decent amount of time. The company with the shortest lifespan with those comics was Dreamwave, and that's because they went out of business. Had they not gone out of business, I'm sure they would have held on to the license a lot longer than they did, because they were writing some really cool stories with some incredible artwork in their own right. Marvel had the license for a very long time, and IDW, of course, had the license for the longest, and they did a lot with their license. They told a lot of stories, one really gigantic, huge shared universe, and a couple of spin-offs here and there, a couple of crossover spin-offs here and there, and then, of course, they had their rebooted Transformers universe that they started around, I think it was 2019, that ended last year when they lost the license. So we finally have the next thing coming. It's here. Our patience paid off. There was a rumor reported a little over a year ago when we knew IDW was losing the license that Robert Kirkman had showed interest in the Transformers and G.I. Joe license, but now we know for sure. There is another thing right here. I'm gonna do something I don't like because I don't want to spoil this last page. There is a brief excerpt here from Robert Kirkman. And if you have questions about this, it does say at the very top, if you have questions, send your questions to voidrivals@skybound.com. Once again, that's voidrivals@skybound.com, as spelled right here above my head. What is this? Is it the coolest thing ever or the coolest thing ever? I think it's the latter. Okay, secret's out. Void Rivals takes place in the new Energon universe. What is that, you say? Why, it's a shared universe that will include an assortment of our upcoming Transformers and G.I. Joe comics from Skybound, as well as a new world of characters created by yours truly and the esteemed Lorenzo De Felici. How cool is that? Oh, I already said. Anyway, I'm excited. I'm hoping it comes through in my writing. I'm a huge fan of Transformers and G.I. Joe, and everything Hasbro has done with them over the last few decades. I was born in 1978, so this stuff really hit the sweet spot for me. I was 8 years old in 1986 when I went to the theater and, spoiler alert, watched Optimus Prime die. You could almost say it was a key inspirational moment in my life that led to Invincible, The Walking Dead, and everything in between. It's definitely something that led to me trying to drive every story I write to a surprising, unexpected moment. So to be here now, working with Lorenzo to create a corner of a new universe featuring these characters is a real thrill for me. I'm so excited to see Zertonians and Agorians being mentioned alongside Cybertronians and Quintessons. I can't wait for you all to see how Duke, Scarlet, Cobra Commander, and Destro weave into this world seamlessly. As this series progresses, you'll get to see the Sacred Ring and discover a whole new cast of characters that resides there, as well as a ton of familiar faces that will crop up along the way when you least expect it. This series continues my goal of bringing new ideas into this world, while also allowing me to play in a sandbox I've loved for so many years. I'm typing this in an office surrounded by Transformers and G.I. Joe statues, toys, posters, comics, etc. I really can't look in a direction and not see something from one of those two brilliant concepts. And hopefully, at some point in the future, we'll get to see Derek and Solilla standing alongside them. So buckle up for a wild ride. We're only scratching the surface of all the awesome things that are in store for you. Thanks for jumping into this on the ground floor, and man, oh man, I can't wait to see more of our plans unfold and get to share what we have in store for you. Woo, Robert Kirkman. Robert, from all of us who are Transformers and G.I. Joe fans, thank you for picking up the license. I personally am very, very, very excited for what you have in store for us. Like I said, Robert doesn't really miss. He's the man responsible for both Invincible and The Walking Dead. Two huge, huge comic books that just exploded with fan love and exploded into two very awesome television franchises. So, if there's anybody worth putting our faith into at this stage in the fandom, I would say the brand is in very good hands. I'm more than excited to see it. The first issue of Void Rivals was cool. Can't wait for more. I'm already very interested in these two characters and their respected societies. There's some pretty cool little details that are in there. And yeah, you're going to see some similarities. You're going to see some rhyming within these two warring factions just in this very first issue that you see with some of the other warring factions from both Transformers and G.I. Joe respectively, and maybe even some other things. So, can't wait for more. Issue 2, July 19th. be on the lookout. The new Energon comic book universe has officially started, and we're off to a really cool start. Guys, thank you so much for tuning into today's review. I know it was something a little bit different than we normally do. We don't usually do a whole lot of comic book review here. I know a lot of us here at Bay 12 read a lot of comics. I certainly do. I know Mikey does, and so does Josh as well. Many of us have been invested in comics for a very, very long time. Transformer comics specifically is what got me into comic collecting at a very young age, and I've been happily doing it for decades. And I can't wait to start this new journey with an all-new fresh start with a prominent writer and studio. So if you're as excited as I am, make sure you go pick up a copy of issue 1 at your local comic book store, and please go to your local comic book store. Make sure you're supporting your local stores and your small businesses as well, because we're fans just like everybody else, and we love to share it with you. So please go to your local comic book store, support your local comic book shop. I'd be willing to bet there's one near you somewhere within driving distance. So just Google it. If you haven't been sure and you've always been curious about a comic book shop, just say comic book shop near me when you're typing it into Google, see what you find. And you might just find a new place that you really, really love. Stay tuned for more Bay 12 content. Stay tuned for more Void Rivals content. Who knows? Maybe we'll just keep on covering this, and maybe we'll make a more regular thing about covering comic book stuff. Let me know what you guys think about that in the comments. What is a comic book property, license, or universe you would like to see us discuss more, or discuss period? I would love to know, so please let me know in the comments. Like and subscribe, follow us on social media, keep on notifications so you don't miss awesome content like this video right here. If you like to pick up awesome toys and collectibles, come by our stores inside Order 66 Multiverse, in the shops at Willow Bend Mall in Plano, Texas. We'll see you guys later. We'll see you another time. It's game over, man.
That's it, man. Game over, man. It's game over.